Hello, everyone. It's me, Andrew. I'm here at Star Cottage Studio, which is our biggest project at Allegory Gallery. Basically, it's my studio and where we send stuff out. So you may be like, hey, it's not Tuesday, or hey, you're not William. And you're right. It's not Tuesday. It's not William. It's Thursday, and I'm Andrew. Wow. We've got some fun things going on in town in Ligonier, lovely Ligonier, which is where our brick and mortar is. And there's a thing called the night market. So they have different vendors set up around town. We have, what is it? The berry, sandhill berries out in front of our shop. And we're super excited. I've already put a request in for William to get me a piece of cheesecake with the berries on top, strawberries. I'm interested in that. I'm really interested in that. So we've got that going on tonight. So he couldn't be on today because he's at the shop and he's flying solo today at the store. So you're stuck with me, y'all. Double trouble in 1 week, maybe triple trouble. Because I've been here, it feels like I was here on, Tuesday? Was I here on Tuesday? I don't remember. It's all a blur. Yesterday, it seemed like I was on a lot. We did the Softlex Beating with Friends with their new kit. I don't know if they have any more left. It was their Love is Love kit. And my color was orange. So my whole background, if you didn't notice, is all orange. So eventually I'm going to have to take that down, swap it back. But yeah. Let's see who's watching. Robin's watching. She said, "Hi, Andrew. Last night was so fun." Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a good time. Though next time I'm going to sneak a peek early and bust out some components in advance because everybody's like, "Oh, done," and then I'm over here frantically painting and trying to blow on the pieces to make them dry faster. I'm almost finished with my piece. I didn't really do too elaborate of a piece, but yeah, I need to add one more coat of glitter. But I have to find the right kind of glitter because I want big chunky glitter. And we're still in the process of moving. It feels like I've been moving forever. But my studio, we're still moving it and transitioning it over here to Star Cottage Studio. So some of my art supplies are in limbo and I have to track them down. I think the only way I'm going to be able to do that is if I get a dowsing rod and kind of try to play seek and find. Let's see who else is watching. Jacqueline's watching. Hey, Jacqueline. Norma's watching. Hey, Norma. Deborah's watching. Hi, Deborah. Diana's tuning in. Hey, Diane. Paula's watching. Hey, Paula. Norma says, "Can't find you on YouTube today." I don't know. I'm supposedly streaming there, so I don't know anything about that. So I'm glad you were able to find us here on Facebook. Hopefully it's being played on YouTube, but I don't know. Kim's watching. Hey, Kim. Janet is watching. Hey, Janet. Julie's watching. Hey, Julie. So last night, after I did the Softlex Beating with Friends, then William and I did a sell down of Check Glass. So if you missed that, we posted 60 different lots of my Check Glass beads that I've been collecting. And hopefully people like them. William's working on divvying those up. So if you didn't get a chance to claim that, there's still time. So you can always watch the replay and see if you're lucky and get anything. So hopefully folks were able to find some treasures to call their very own. Jacqueline says, "I love sparkles." I do too. But for like glitter, I'm a slow convert to the glitter. I love glitter in theory, but in application, I'm kind of hesitant because it does get everywhere. And I find glitter surprisingly on my face sometimes. I'm like, I don't know what happened. Maybe the cat's toys or something, because some of their toys are all glittery, and so I don't know. It gets everywhere, so that's kind of why I don't want to unleash the beast and do that. So, but I do like sparkle, so it's a conundrum. Julie says, loving all the orange. Well, when I get an assignment, I try to like do understand the assignment. So I was like, I got to do all the orange. So here we go. It's kind of orangey, you know. We rated our bookshelf. I don't know if you can. And I don't actually know what books I grabbed, but all of them were the ones with the orange spine. And so yeah, it was pretty fun. I rated the props. We used to decorate at the store more. We still decorate, but not as seasonally intensive as we used to. Like I used to change out the window like all the time. And now it's kind of like a quarterly kind of thing, you know. So, but it used to be like every week I would change out the window, and it was a little bit intense, you know. So our garage is filled with like props and things for different windows, and a little bit hoarder style, but you know, it is what it is. All of you folks who decorate for seasonal changes, you know what I'm talking about. Susan's watching. Hey, Susan. Facebook users watching. So if it's coming up as Facebook user, we use StreamYard. And if you go to the description of this post, wherever you are, whether you're on Facebook or if you're watching on YouTube, then there's a little link and it says, give me permission to let StreamYard know who's talking. And then you click that and then it will show up who it is. Now, sometimes it logs out and it's not a perfect system, but you know, otherwise you're kind of like going incognito, which is fun and nice too. But if you want me to know who you are, that's the best way to do it. All right, Terry's watching on YouTube, so I guess it is playing from YouTube. Let's see. Suzanne's watching. Hey, Suzanne. We were watching this show, the reboot of Queer as Folk, and that takes place in New Orleans, where you are. It was a little bit traumatic to watch the first episode, so we'll see how it goes. It's on Peacock Network. There's an app, which I was like a little bit, I can't keep track of everything. Brooke says hello from Detroit. Hey, Brooke. And she said that YouTube is a go. So it is out there. It is playing. So if folks want to watch that on YouTube, please do. It counts towards our watch hours. William is better at having people go over there and watch on YouTube, because he's like, that'll be great, because then it will monetize, and then you're already watching the ads, so then we'll get the money from it. But me, I'm kind of like, wow, it is what it is. So we'll see if that's a good strategy or not. Janet says, I know I got some checked glass. Yay, hooray. That's good. I think we picked out a lot of really good things for the sell down last night. So hopefully people like that. If people do like that, we'll do more of those. We have lots and lots of beads, and sometimes there's like one or two of the strands or beads, and so it's kind of hard to list them online. And I talked a little bit about that last night. So we end up with all these like random little boxes of bits and baubles, and I think that is probably going to be the easiest way of handling those, you know? So if you like those, let us know and we'll do more. Jacqueline says angel kisses from the glitter on my face. Well, that's a nice way of thinking of that. Terry says my college mascot is a tiger, Clemson University Tigers. Is that? Oh, nice. And then Norma says, okay, YouTube came up. Now I'm on both. Well, thanks, Norma. Lorraine is watching. Hey, Lorraine. Other Julie's watching. Last night's beating was a blast. Love all you people. Thanks. We had fun too. And we talked a little bit afterwards, and who knows what's going to happen from that. You know, you never know what's going to develop from these things, because at one point, Sarah had invited me to a beating party, a Zoom beating party, and then we were talking after, and that's where the Great Beat Extravaganza kind of came from. So you never know what that's going to turn into. The Great Beat Extravaganza, there's over 11,000 people in that group. So it's pretty wild when you think about it. You know, those little conversations grow into something that, you know, who knows what's going to turn into. Janice says, hi, Andrew and all. Howdy. Susan says, yep, our upstairs closet is filled mostly with holiday decorations. So speaking of the upstairs, there was a terrible, terrible thing that happened. So I noticed a slight funk last night, and I was like, something smells off. So I ran upstairs to get and so I should preface this by saying that down the block, there's kind of a wetland area. So it kind of smells when you're driving by, and it kind of had that same aroma characteristics. And so last night I went upstairs to get those sorting pans, and then I started dry heaving in my mouth. I didn't talk about it at the time because I figured people didn't want to know about that. And so I was like, well, I don't want to play Seek and Find in the dark. But then so early this morning, I got up and I tried to hunt down the source of this. And apparently a mouse had died upstairs. And because we're in a 2-floor building, it's super hot up there. And so basically it was cooking. And the aromas were less than delightful. And so this morning I was cleaning that out, and that was not my favorite, and probably why I'm a little bit traumatized now. So if you see that look of trauma on my face, that's why. But yeah, so today I've been airing out the cottage and trying to get it as nicely smelling as possible. But I was like, boy, this is terrible. Anyways, so that's what happened. You go away for a couple days and things like that happen. So anyways, that's story time for today. Marianne says, woohoo, another demo. Yeah, so I'm going to do something kind of similar to what I did the other day. I made a bracelet. This one. So I was thinking, like, maybe I'll make something that kind of matches that. So if you don't like gold and pearls, then just turn this off right now. It's okay. Joanne says, hello, Andrew. It's good to see you live. This is better than replay. Well, good. I'm glad you could join the fun. Another Facebook user said hello. Susan says, some of the check glass styles I haven't seen previously. So that's good. Marianne says, I got lots of check glass. Oh, good. Well, I'm glad people like what we had on offer. Kim says, beautiful check glass. It was fun buying that way. Oh, good. I'm glad people like it. Janice asks, when is the Allegory Gallery Zoom beating party? So that's supposed to happen tomorrow. And that is for the Kitapalooza. If you got a kit, we're just going to hang out and make stuff. So I need to talk to William about the logistics about that. I think it's going to be around 7 o'clock tomorrow night. But I have to double check with him because he's the tech brain. And I kind of just like, I'm just like a talking head. I'm like, hello, everyone. So I don't actually know what's going on. But tomorrow around 7-ish, I'm thinking, and we'll post the Zoom link for anybody who can play along. Hopefully folks come and participate. Otherwise, it's going to be like this, me talking to myself. So, it's more fun when there's people. So we'll hang out tomorrow and we'll send out the Zoom link sometime tonight. Teresa's watching. Hey, Teresa. Susan says, oh no. I'm guessing that's about the terrible smell upstairs. Lorraine says, awful, yuck. Yeah, so it was not my favorite. So Norma says that smell is a foul smell. I agree. I did not enjoy that at all. Teresa says, I had that in my old house. I called the septic company because I thought that was what it was. Yeah, so we don't have any septic, so that's it. Jen says, no, I'll be missing it. I'm going in the hospital and don't have my beads and tools. Well, you can still hang out with us if you are allowed to bring your phone. Otherwise, we'll be sending you positive healing energy and hopefully you get better for whatever you're going to the hospital for. Teresa says the septic company did find some car and house keys that I'd lost. Well, that's nice. Norma says, my Kitapaloozas haven't come yet. I don't know. I don't do any of the shipping. So if there was something weird with your order, it might have been from the, if you combined orders. I don't know. I think most of the stuff, they said that they were caught up on everything of the shipping. The pendants, the pins that I made aren't ready yet because I really haven't had a second to sit down yet. So those I'm still working on. And then the mystery boxes, they're getting sent separately, so that won't affect your order. So I don't know. So I can ask Barb. She's not in tomorrow because she's going to South Carolina. So otherwise, just come and hang out, make stuff, and we'll just pretend you have your kits. But that's a shame. Suzanne says some of my kits came today. So happy. Oh, good. Oh, that's what it is. So the root babies was holding it up. Yeah, so I would have thought that they would have sent that before combining that, but we were away, so I don't know exactly what all got sent and didn't get sent. And actually, I don't work in the shipping department, so I pretend like I know what's going on, but I actually don't. So, because people are like, Andrew, where's my order? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, William, can you ask Barb? Janice says, actually, I'm already in the hospital. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Janice. She said she'll be there for at least another week. Well, hopefully you get better. Marion says that hers just shipped. Janice says, I'm sorry to learn this. Blessings and fingers crossed that you're out soon. Norma says, I can play with another inspiration kit instead. Yeah, it's mostly just a hangout session. And the idea of the Kittapalooza kind of making thing was, you know, not really planned. I shouldn't say that. I should say that we're always planned and have everything meticulously thought out. But Kittapalooza, I started making kits, and then we're like, well, I'm making lots of kits. We should actually make this a thing. And then folks seemed interested in doing a Zoom meetup. So I think that's where that kind of came and evolved into. So if people like it and it works out, then we'll do it again. Um, we still have lots and lots of kits available. I'm looking at them in the corner of my eye, and there's a mountain of them. And by a mountain, I mean like it covers the whole table. But so yeah, there's still lots of kits available. And I think that because Barb is out, she's coming back on Tuesday. The shipping will be slightly delayed, but nothing crazy. Um, so she got it as her birthday present. So that's a nice thing that her family got her. Terry says, I lost track of time again. Ugh. Well, that happens to me all the time. That's like my life now. So Lorraine said that she hopes that Janice is doing better, or hopes that she gets better soon. So yeah. All right. So I've caught up with the comments. Hopefully you all are having fun so far. I mean, we're just talking right now. Let me think about if we have any other announcements to do before I jump into the demo. I really can't think of anything. I've been trying to not schedule stuff, if that makes sense, because I've been doing meetings like crazy, like nonstop meetings. And I kind of feel like my brain is getting a little bit soft, but that could also be the cleaning chemicals. Yeah, it's kind of like we've been doing back-to-back meetings for, it feels like weeks, and we have a meeting tonight, so I don't know how we're going to do that, but we're in this project called the Acre Partners cohort, which is a collaboration of nonprofits who are trying to bring creative entrepreneurs or help them in the Johnstown area. And so we are doing a series of pop-up shops, and possibly down the road, maybe finding a building there. Ligonier, we love Ligonier, but it's very rare that a building comes up available for purchase in Ligonier. And when they do come up, sometimes they're out of our price range. So Johnstown has, I think, some interesting prospects, and it's still relatively affordable. So we might think about moving things over there. You never know. I it's all too early to say, really, because yeah, it's too early to say, really. But one thing that we did notice during the pandemic was the importance of kind of finding our forever home for the shop. And we've been paying rent for years and years, and we're creeping up on our 12-year anniversary of the store. And so we've spent, over $100,000 in rent so far. So we'll be, something to think about. I've noticed that most of the bead stores that last a long time, the owners invested in property early. Most of the one, either that or it's handed, it's like somebody's parent, like mom or dad or whatever, started it, and then they took over, or whatever situation. But I've noticed that most of the ones that stick around are ones that, at least the brick and mortars that have stuck around, are ones where they have invested in themselves and purchased property. So that's kind of in my mind, because eventually we won't be able to work as hard as we are now. So that's, that's always in the back of my mind about thinking about the future and how we're going to future proof our business, because the bead business is very feast or famine. So sometimes you can have like a really super awesome great day, and then sometimes not. And there's, especially with everything going on right now in the world, we're becoming very acutely aware of how much you know uh, how roller coastery things can be, and so it's just something to think about. So who knows what's going to happen? We're tentatively staying where put for now, but we are going to do some pop-up shops at the very least in Johnstown. So who knows what the future holds? We've got some exciting plans. All right. Susan says, I just received my vintage faceted bead order. Marvelous stuff. Oh, good. Donna says, hello, Andrew and everybody. Marion is sending healing vibes. Donna says, it isn't the Zoom meeting tomorrow night for Kittapalooza? Yeah, we just talked about that. So yeah. So Susan said, interesting concept, the pop-up site. Yeah, so the idea is maybe to test out different markets and see if there's an interest. Also, with real estate, we're not really in a position to do much right now, considering that we just got the cottage last year. And so now we have 2 mortgages that we're paying. But we are paying for rent, and our rent is not exactly cheap. And some of the properties available in Johnstown, the mortgage would be like a quarter of how much our rent currently is. So, if it's a numbers game, we'll see. I don't know if I have another big fundraiser in me right away, so we'll see how that goes. All right, so let's just flip this around, because otherwise I'm going to just droll on forever about our plans, not plans, and people are going to be like they're just going to be like, what's he talking about now? What's he talking about now? All right, let's flip this around. All right, so when William was showing the AG pendants, I think that was yesterday, he showed this octopus, which is this Bali inspired carving from Indonesia. That's, I think, where the original of this was carved. And I just love this piece. And I love the pearls also. We have a lovely selection of pearls in our online store right now. If you go to allegorygallery.com, you can check out where we have pearls, and we also have the fine pewter pieces. And this is one of the Allegory Gallery fine pewter pieces. It's an antique gold plated octopus. And there's fun, if you look at it close, there's fun little places to hang and dingle dangle things if you want. And it's a nice little sculptural piece. It's a thin piece, so it doesn't get too heavy. So, that's nice. I probably should have looked at this a little bit harder before I picked this as the design, but we'll work it out. How about that? All right. So with this, we're going to also use some freshwater pearls. I found these cool seashell kind of points. This is made from the middle part of the seashell, where it's that spiral. I kind of think they look like unicorn horns, and I like them. But I think that they add a nice kind of drama to the piece, in a sense that, they are not all in one kind of not all on one kind of silhouette or profile, shape profile. So these kind of pop out a little bit, and they also kind of marry with this shape that's kind of popping out here. So, and you'll see what I mean when I kind of string things up, or at least at the very least lay things out. So for today's project, I'm going to string it up on soft flex. I have this left over from the Very Perry great bead extravaganza bead trade that we did recently. And so I thought this looked so nice with the pearls. You won't actually see this, but I think it's nice, so I'm just going to use it. I've also got some metal seed beads. These are size 8 in a brass. And I'm going to use those for spacers. And then I've also got this gold-plated toggle that I used for my bracelet in the previous one that I did. So this is will kind of coordinate with this piece and kind of have a similar vibe. If you are like where we are, it's super hot here, and I can't help but think about going to the beach and cooling off. So, all right. So for today's tools, we're going to need some cutters. We need some crimp tubes, and I always like to have my my chain nose pliers and my round nose pliers. I don't know if we're actually going to use those, but I like to have them, and I like to have my crimping pliers because that's how we're going to crimp the ends of our necklace. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to cut this off and kind of lay out visually what I'm thinking. And then we'll see if it works out. You know, sometimes with designing, you can have an idea, but because of the materials, especially organic materials, you know, things don't always work out the way you think. So sometimes you have to sit down and think about things and reconfigure them and, you know, play around with it. And I always tell people don't get too committed to an idea because sometimes that idea can change, and that's okay. You know, life is beautiful like that. We don't always know what's going to happen next, and there's something nice about knowing that and acknowledging that and kind of preparing mentally for that. Sometimes it's hard, you know, when you're set on an idea and then it doesn't work out. It can be very disappointing. And so sometimes it's nice to kind of just roll with it. I think in crafting and making artwork and jewelry, there's something wonderful about having control over, you know, having choices and options. It's also a beautiful way to express yourself. So, depending on what you're doing and what you're making, it can be completely different than what somebody else is thinking about making, even if the components are all the same. That's one of the reasons why I love our design challenge group. It's because people, when we do kits, when we do design challenges, we send those out all over the world, and people get them, and they're the same components, and yet somehow there's such a wealth of creativity and diversity, and people think about things in different ways. So I just love seeing that. So yeah. All right. Let me kind of laying things out. I'm not super committed to these just yet, but we'll see how it goes. And I think that'll be fun. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Perfect. All right. And I think that I want to bring some of that color down. So I'm going to put maybe pearls in between. I love these pearls. So we have a bunch of old stock pearls that are super nice. If you've gotten any of the pearls from us previously, then you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully you enjoyed them. I know I enjoy them. So I'm just going to lay these out and see how it goes. I can tell that the weather is shifting because there's a pressure building in my head, which is one of the unfortunate things. I joke around sometimes that I have a superpower, and unfortunately my superpower is that I get a headache before different changes in weather pressure. So it's kind of the most useless superpower. Maybe not the most useless. Maybe it's one of those things where I haven't learned to channel my powers yet. And one day I'll like be like Storm from the X-Men. That seems very festive. All right. So I'm just laying these out. And I'm going to put spacers in between these. And one of the reasons why I know that I'm going to put spacers in between is, for one, I want that contrast of this gold color, this yellowy gold, to these kind of purple hued pearls, freshwater pearls. I think it adds a nice contrast. I also think it adds a little bit of luxuriousness to it. So I do like that idea. One of the things that I'm going to also with the spacers in between is because these are kind of odd shapes where they're not cut and dry and all uniform. Sometimes having these little beads in between kind of cushions that. So if there is a bead that kind of sticks out a little bit more on one side, it's not going to look visually weird because there'll be that little bit of buffer space around each of the beads. So whenever I'm designing with organic materials or things that are all kind of different shapes, I try to think about how I can incorporate them so that there is a uniformity to them, if that makes any sense. I also, because I think I'm going to make this a relatively short necklace, not super long. So I do want there to be a lot of the action is going to happen in the front as opposed to taking this all the way around. The other concern about designing with these kind of unusual shaped beads is that sometimes it can be uncomfortable to wear, especially at the back where it can kind of dig in your neck. So I'm just going to keep most of the different shaped things up towards the front and then kind of keep it kind of streamlined in the back. Now, if you like to have a little bit more control over spacing and how far things are apart, there are bead boards that have a groove and a channel with measurements on them. That's a great way to figure out exactly how much beading wire you need, for example. For me, I kind of just free flow it and hope for the best. That's probably not the best thing to do, but that's the way that I design. I make little clusters and piles of things that I like and I think work together. And then I kind of just work with them that way. All right. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. All right. Obviously I'm going to need to add more than that. 2, 4, 6, 8. And I'm going to need 2, 4, 6, 8. Aren't you proud of me that I can count? And this is going to look kind of messy if you can see this. But generally speaking, you know what things are going to look like. So 2, 4, that's going to be 20. 2, 4, that'll be 20 on this side. And so even though this is pretty symmetrical, there are little hints of asymmetry, especially because these are all kind of organic materials and they're not all going to be exactly the same. And also, this pendant here is not, perfectly symmetrical. So even though there is symmetry within the design, and there is what I'm hoping will be balance, um, it's good to think about things. Now, one thing that you can do to test out to see how long your piece is, if you haven't completely taken your beads off the strand, you can always measure it. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So that will be a little bit longer than that, is going to make up part of your necklace. So if you had a ruler, you could always measure that and see exactly how long that part of the necklace is going to be. So I think we're going to be fine. This was a particularly long strand of freshwater pearls. So I'm just going to put those and reserve those off to the side. And I'm going to dump out some of these little metal spacers. And then let's get stringing, y'all. I see a couple people have commented. Donna says that she loves the shells. Thanks. Lorraine says they are very nice. Thanks. Donna says that it's horribly hot. You know what the craziest thing is? You posted the temperature of where you are in Alabama, and you were actually just under what you posted, and you're like a couple 100 miles south of us. So we had this weird heat wave come through. Facebook user says, hello, Andrew. Lorraine says, love that toggle. I got one and it's very nice. I think it's a useful kind of utilitarian toggle. Sometimes there's like fancy toggles. And then sometimes you just need something that's like a good staple. So I like to have a good staple. Marion says, here we have perfect summer temperatures, 72 with a chance of thunderstorms. I think the temperature is dropping here because I see that the sun has magically disappeared. So I think a storm's coming through, which is less than delightful considering that we have the night market supposed to happen. Hopefully William got my message about getting me a piece of cheesecake from Sandhill Berries, because I want the strawberry cheesecake. I like their mixed berry, but sometimes the seeds get stuck in my teeth. So I like the strawberry cheesecake. I hope he's watching this so that he can get me the strawberry cheesecake. Apparently I'm hungry. Donna says, that's a great tip. Thanks. Julie says, loving this necklace. Thanks. Rosie says, hi, Andrew. Hi, Rosie. Kim says, unique and beautiful design. Thanks. Marianne says, great color combo. Thanks. Donna says, that is crazy, Andrew. And I'm thinking that she's talking about the weather. Donna said that they had rain last night. At some point, the electricity went out because all of the clocks were messed up this morning. So at some point, the electricity went out. So anyways, Facebook user said, tornado warnings in PA, so the temperature is probably dropping. Yeah, so we're probably like in the eye of the tornado. So hopefully we avoid that, because I'm in the cottage and who knows how sturdy the cottage is. Anyways, it's probably fine. Robin says, Siri tells me that it's 112 right now in Tempe. Last year we set a record with 115. So not so bad, I guess. Well, hopefully it doesn't get hotter in August. Usually August is like the hot month. It seems like June up here, I used to be pretty mild. I'd go to like Beat and Button in Milwaukee, and we'd have to like dress in layers because it would be like super hot during the day, and then it would be like chilly willy at night. and we'd like walk around town and go to music things, and it would be like chilly. Also, we would see spring flowers like blooming, and I'd be like, all my spring flowers are already done. Anyway, so Norma says that Kentucky is in the mid 90s for day 5, and after this weekend, we're supposed to get them again for another 6 days. That's wild. Donna says, weather is crazy. I agree. Marion says, storm gods, send any bad weather away from Ligonier. Thank you. I'll have to go strike my hammer on my anvil and leave an offering. Jacqueline says it's 88 in Florida, and so many northern states are much warmer. Isn't that wild? Cynthia says it's finally cooled down to 75. It was 85. Robin says our low last night was 80. Yeah, that's intense. I don't know if I'm sturdy enough for that. Actually, I know I'm not sturdy enough because we went down to Florida, and I grew up in Florida, so you think I'd be used to it, but it was getting super hot, and I was feeling a little bit lightheaded, and I was like, I don't know about this, and so there you go. All right, so let me string this up. I've got my Soft Flex, which is a flexible beading wire. Flexible beading wire is great because it is braided steel with a nylon coating. It's super sturdy. It comes in different colors. If you need different colors, if you're using transparent beads, it's a really wonderful thing. And let's see. So this pearl, of course, the first pearl that I pick is one that's going to be a headache maker. And sometimes the holes on the pearls are a little bit small. So you just kind of have to press and wiggle it a little bit and rotate it. And in theory, it should press right through. Perfect. And I use my chain-nose pliers to help guide the wiring because I feel like that makes it kink less. I may have to trim another tip that you can use to get things to fit through a little bit easier is take your flush cutters and cut that at an angle, and it will kind of make its own beading needle that way. So good job. I was concerned that I was going to have to be struggling on camera for the whole time trying to get pearls to fit on this medium beading wire, but thankfully it was just that one pearl. Generally speaking, though, the pearls that we have a good and ample hole, not large hole necessarily, unless you get the large hole ones that we have. But I think that if you look at what it's strung on, the material that it's strung on, you can generally kind of guesstimate, which is helpful. And then so, sometimes it's good to flip the pearl around and it can dislodge any kind of flotsam and jetsam that's clogging up the hole. All right. I see a couple people have said some things. Let's see. Marianne says peonies are just starting to bloom here. Yeah, our peonies are all done. They're all done. And when we were in Providence, they were like at their peak. So I missed their peak of blooming. Donna says, I just love peonies. Me too. Barbara says, hi, Andrew, 92 in Michigan. Oh, boy. Suzanne says, heat index 112. I can't even. No. Joanne says, such a great necklace. I love the design and colors. That's the cutest octopus. Is it on the site for sale? Thanks for the fun. It is available on the website. That's allegorygallery.com, and it's in our fine pewter section. So if you head on over to the website, you can see that there, unless it's sold out. So, but I doubt that it sold out because I think we had a bunch. We also have a cute little one too. So if you don't want something so grande, there is a little octopus. In theory, William showed it to y'all. Oh, here it is. This is a little octopus. I think that's charming. I will have to get a head pin because I didn't realize that the hole was vertical on this. So I will have to get another head pin. All right. So Susan says, my daylilies have started blooming. Our daylilies haven't started blooming yet, but it's probably we're maybe a week away from that. They have come up. In our yard, the milkweed has come up and started blooming. So everything smells really good. It smells almost a little bit like honey, a little bit, and it's a little bit overwhelming. It's like somebody sprayed perfume, but like really strong, but in a nice way, you know. So the milkweed, we grow milkweed in our garden, which generally a lot of gardeners are not necessarily putting milkweed in their flower beds, but it is the preferred food for monarch butterflies. Yeah, we grow that so that hopefully we get lots of butterflies. There's also this idea of corridor planting, and I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but it's so that there's a continuous food stream that goes from their migratory pattern. So in theory, we're contributing to the butterfly population. However, I've only ever seen one caterpillar on our milkweed, so I don't know how well it's doing. But our neighbors, their kids, their little kids, they were raising monarch butterflies, and so instead of like going off to the trails, they just whenever they needed to feed the caterpillars, that they'd grab a couple leaves. So that's sweet. All right, so I'm basically just stringing these beads up, and I like it. I think it's a very meditative thing, but it's probably not the most exciting thing to watch. So if you're making anything, let us know what you're making. Also, like what you're interested in. If you're working with any particular materials right now, I'd love to hear what you're working with right now. One of the cool things about Snag is that even though it's a Society of North American Goldsmiths, it's really just kind of contemporary jewelry now. So it's actually very little jewelry or very little gold that was on display throughout the week. However, um, the nice thing about that is that people are using all kinds of different materials. So I saw a lot of really cool combinations of people using things that you wouldn't even think about as jewelry materials. And it also made me want to bust out the resin because we work with resin, or we used to work with resin a lot more. One thing that I did find out that is probably less than desirable is that if you're working with resin, it's probably best not to stockpile it. Because Cynthia and I both have how they call hoarder tendencies. And so both of us like to have an ample selection of art supplies whenever the mood strikes us. And so I bought a bunch of resin, and unfortunately, because of the heat and some of the other environmental factors, uh, it caused the resin to go bad. So basically, there's like hundreds of dollars worth of resins I had to pitch. Um, and get disposal of. So that was less than delightful. But in the future going forward, I'll just buy it when I need it and use it. Um, and that way it's fresh. Because some of that stuff, those art supplies I've had are going on, they're almost able to vote. So, they're getting a voting age. Like there's this one smooth on kit that I have of mold making material. And I'm like, that is probably almost 20 years old. So it's probably no good right now, but I like to carry it around with me, my comfort molding material. And basically, I'm just free associating right now. So who knows what I'm saying? One of the other things that I like to do when I'm stringing up materials like shells or things like that is to find the pretty side. Because depending on how you string these, one side will be in the front and one side will be in the back. And you'll never know what that's going to be until you string it up. So I like to find the pretty side and work with that, because otherwise then you can have, it's like stones, especially like labradorite, where there's a color shift to them. So if you have beads and you string them in a certain way, they can read just like gray. And then if you string them the other way, they can light up and kind of look, all that rainbow color. So I want the maximum for my materials. So I will play around and turn my stones upside down and look at them from all the different angles just so that I can see, and use what's going to be the best side for the piece. So I recommend you doing that too. And really, I think it's a wonderful thing to be curious about your materials. And I can't stress that enough. All of the things that we work with have stories, which I think is pretty cool to think about. They all come from somewhere. They were all made by somebody. Um, and I think that being curious about your materials is a really wonderful way to kind of spark creativity and really get you excited about using that and learning about the material qualities that are intrinsic to the material. So sometimes, for instance, we're just talking about resin. There's a lot of different properties to resin and some very wonderful things that you can accomplish with it. But it does have its drawbacks. So it's always good to think about what those qualities are, what the pros are, what the cons are. I have a little sketchbook, which I call an idea book, and I have different materials listed, and I have these, very honest things about what works with what. So, like, I'll say, well, this is good, but it's messy. Um, and so when I'm getting ready for a project, I kind of know what those materials are and what they're going to do. I think it's good to give yourself time to play and experiment too. That's one of the biggest things that I encourage everyone to do, is take some time to play creatively. So often when people are in the jewelry and bead making world, they reach a point where they have to monetize their craft to keep going. And I've seen this before, where people, they have to make money to pay for their materials. Not everybody does, but a lot of people do. And I am in this was in a similar boat when I started out. um, and so, but I have also noticed where people, they move instantly into monetizing their design, but they don't always give themselves time to kind of play and be creative and look at new materials. And after a while, you can kind of tell who does that. I think it's good when you give yourself permission to be creative, to play, to kind of make a mess sometimes, And, that's how you grow as an artist, at least in my opinion. Some people, they know right off the bat what they're going to do, and they will force whatever to make it work that way. And that's cool if that's the way your brain works. Me, it's a very different, more organic kind of methodology. So I don't know, you know, if that's for everybody or not. All right. So I'm just kind of laying that out and seeing how that looks. It's okay. I think some of the drama of having them so close together was lost a little bit by spacing them out, but I still like it enough that I'm going to keep going. I see a couple people have mentioned things. Donna says, my daylilies are almost done, and I have 2 varieties that will rebloom. That's good. Robin says, we haven't had rain in over 3 months, so everything smells like dirt and dust here. I bet it will be delightful when it does rain. It'll get that petrichor, and maybe have that smell of mesquite in the air or creosote. Facebook user says, hey, and lots of stars and clapping. Hey, Facebook user. Paula says, I planted milkweed this year and other Indiana native plants for butterflies and bees. Oh, that's good. One of the things that I didn't realize, because there seems to be sometimes 2 camps of people who garden. Like, there are the people who are the flower gardeners, and then there are the people who are vegetable gardeners. The thing that I realized is that when you plant flowers, it attracts pollinators. And if your garden if you attract lots of pollinators to your garden, then they can keep down other pests like aphids and different things that are gonna, suck the life force out of your plants. And also it will help be more productive. So there's a wonderful book about companion planting, and I think it was like tomatoes love roses or carrots love roses or something like that. And that book is really wonderful because it talks about the different ways that plants kind of work synergistically together in a garden. And some of the combinations, there are flower combinations. So when we had our garden at our house, I planted marigolds all the way around the perimeter because it was supposed not it keeps pests out. So not only was it attracted pollinators, but it kept like our bunny friends away from digging in our little patch there. Suzanne says, I'm working on with bone and scrimshaw that I got from you. Oh, delightful. Thank you, Suzanne. It'll be exciting to see what you make. I saw your pieces earlier today, and those looked really good. And I agree, Halloween can't come early enough. I love Halloween. Kim says, I have polymer clay from the 90s, probably not good anymore. Oops. You know what, Kim? You actually might be okay. Polymer clay, especially the early formulations of it, the recipe was a little bit different. I think the emulsifier they used was different. So I've noticed that old clay is surprisingly it lasts a little bit better. At least I don't know if I'm just making this up in my mind or what, but I have noticed that my older polymer clay is still workable, but some of my newer clay that I've gotten that I've left out, it gets super brittle and kind of chalky and crumbly. So you might be okay, depending on what kind. Also, you can do things to condition your clay so that it stays, that you can rehydrate it and do different things. And if you're friends with Christy Friesen, she does a lot of tutorials on different ways of doing stuff. And actually, if you're friends with Ginger from the Blue Bottle Tree, she does a lot of research on polymer clay and polymer clay adjacent materials. And she is a wonderful resource on using different products to keep your clay nice and conditioned, and what things you can store it with, and what plastics are compatible. So check her out if you don't or haven't already. Suzanne says, my clay didn't last 6 months. Oh no. Cynthia says, I love the way Scrimshaw looks. When Cynthia, Sheila, and I were little, we saved up our pennies and we went down to the woodworking store and we got Togwa nuts, which now they're really commercially available, but back then they weren't. And so there was this one barrel in the back of the store. And so we got the Togwa nuts and we carved and shaped and sanded our own little scrimshaw. And they call that vegetable ivory. And so that's our little earliest memories of the scrimshaw. Suzanne says, yes. Cynthia, yes. Cynthia says, I was given some old ivory piano key faces to draw on. That's cool. Yeah, one of our friends, they work in salvage, and there were a bunch of old pianos that were getting like smashed up or didn't work or whatever, and so they saved a bunch of the keys. So I have a bunch of these little pieces. I hate to throw those away, even though I know that they come from, the history of them is a little bit not so great, but I hate the idea that it would end up in the landfill. So I'm of the mind of repurpose and reuse things, especially to pay honor to where it came from. I see Barbara says, I am a bead hoarder. Me too. Suzanne says, Cynthia, cool. A friend artist made a tiny voodoo doll from a piano key. That's neat. Barbara said, or Cynthia says, Barbara, same, but I like to think of it as a curated collection. I agree. If you have a curated collection, it doesn't sound like hoarder. Because like hoarder, sometimes I think about like stuff that doesn't smell right. Though today, though, it was not delightful smelling in the cottage. But, I think of like wet things, which is probably not necessarily the right way of thinking about that. So my stuff is, at least it's cool. So I don't know. I have a curated collection too. Don says, we have native milkweed. That's good. There are different kinds of milkweed. There's the one with a bright orange, and then we have there's one that's kind of like a dusky pink color, and it's like a little, we have the one that's the dusky pink color. And in theory, I was supposed to trade seeds with somebody, and I'll have to go through my Facebook messages, but I saved all these seed pods, and now I can't remember who I traded with. And they never reminded me, so oh well, I'll have to go look through my messages and see where I need to send seeds off to. Don says, I gave up on my veggie garden. The deer won. Yeah, we kind of slowed down on our veggie patch too, because we were doing so much stuff with the store that it just became really hard to do everything. Donna says, I am all about companion planting. I have mint on one side of my back door and lemongrass on the other side to keep flies and insects away from coming into my house. Yeah, that's a good thing to do. Also, if you can, in like paths and stuff, there is, you can plant in between different pavers thyme, and the oils from that also help with keeping bugs away, in theory. So, Cynthia says, that sounds neat. Terry says, I have some quite lovely mahjong tiles that I found at a thrift store. Incomplete set. I'm hoping to do something on them, decoupage, paint, etc. Well, depending on what they're made of, you may not want to do anything and just use them as components. I also have a collection of mahjong tiles. Now, if you are going to drill them, you do have to be careful. And one thing that I should tell you is be careful. A part of that intrinsic knowledge of your materials is also knowing when those materials can hurt you. So there is a recent story that was circulating around about an artist who was carving and drilling seashells as a part of her art. And she thought because she was using seashells, it was all natural and all organic, and she was getting mysteriously ill. And part of what was happening was that the water that the shells were coming from was polluted. So the shells contained heavy metals. And so she was grinding these shells and she was getting metal poisoning from the seashells. So, the reason why I thought of that is that some of the old mahjong tiles are made of bakelite, and bakelite has some dodgy chemical compounds. So if you do end up doing things with bakelite and drilling it out, make sure that you're in a well ventilated area and that it's underwater, because some of this stuff is less than good. And always make sure to wear gloves and proper safety gear when you're drilling that out or carving it, because I can't remember if I can't remember if it's arsenic or asbestos or something like that. But it's one of those things where it's found in bakelite, and bakelite by itself is inert because it's embedded in that. However, when you like drill it and make it into a dust, and then you breathe that or eat it or whatever, then it's that's where the problems can happen. And so just be careful, everybody, especially if you're using repurposed materials. I saw a couple of people using some lovely watch faces in their steampunk jewelry, and they looked really cool. However, the pieces that they were using were covered in radium, which, if you read that book, Radium Girls, it will give you pause because it basically dissolved their jawbones while they were working with it. Of course, their exposure with it is like, a million times more than just your casual, encounter with it. However, just be careful. Just know what you're working with, and I don't want to cause alarm or concern, but I do want you to be prepared so that if you are working with unconventional materials, you know what to expect. It's always good to look at your materials, do a quick search on your materials to find out more about them. Most of the chemical compounds that you can get available nowadays, such as resin and whatever else, art supplies, there's what's it called, an MSD sheet. Basically, it's the material science description or whatever, and it tells you what's in it and what is potentially a carcinogen. And I know some people. I worked with this one artist who was like, I don't really care, I just do whatever I want to do, and in tarnation, blast them all, I'll do what I want. And then they got some mysterious health issues, and they're always getting cancer every other year. So, yeah, be careful, because sometimes, we can live cavalier and do what we want, and that's all great and all. But sometimes, an ounce of prevention prevents a pound of cure. So, yeah. All right. I see Barbara's watching. Sounds better. Thanks. Marianne says curated collection. Cool. Susan says always best to go with a native milkweed. Yes. That's a big thing is about natives and non-natives and invasive species. Uh, and that's a big conversation. There's a lot of things that are not native which are actually beneficial. Like honeybees are not actually native to North America. If you didn't know that. And they are one of the top pollinators. So, there's a lot of things like people, they get very militant about certain things. And while that's certainly good, to keep down invasive species, I think sometimes you have to look at things from a different perspective, and sometimes uh, it changes the way you view things. Donna says yes, that is right. Terry says, oh dear, I don't think they are that old, but I will be cautious. Thank you so much for sharing that. Cynthia says, I think it's formaldehyde. I think you're probably right. Terry says, perhaps I could negotiate wrapping them one way or another. Yeah, and you could make settings for them. So there's lots of different ways of getting around it. But, if you are set on drilling them, just do it underwater and then you should be fine. Donna says, I was able to go to an estate sale preview. I'm related to them, but a huge tote of jewelry making supplies, beads, etc., and a ton of Ziploc bags of some gorgeous necklaces and bracelets. Well, that's awesome. I always love that. Lorraine says, wow, that's not good. Well, Cindy says, how do you know all these things, Andrew? Ear to the ground, big reader. I read a lot and I watch a lot. I'm a constant consumer of things and information, and some things stay put and some things do not. So if I seem knowledgeable, that's why. Terry says MSDS, Material Safety Data Sheet. That's the letters. Cynthia says the rain is inert unless you drill it, then just do it outside with a mask. And I would say do it underwater. And the other reason why is that you can scorch your pieces with your drill bit. So go low on the speed. Don't ramp it up super fast because you're going to create friction, and friction creates fire. So you can actually burn your Bakelite by drilling it. You can also burn lots of things. I actually had a scar on my arm for a while because was polishing a piece and I was super impatient and I was trying to get it done, and it actually superheated the piece, and then it slipped out of my hand and landed on my arm and actually burnt me. So you know I don't know if you can see it anymore because I use these creams to make the scars go away. But yeah, that was just from polishing a pendant. So keep that in mind, y'all. Just go low and slow. And if you can do it underwater, that also helps keep things cool. It will also keep your bits lasting longer. Sometimes if you heat things up, it can help. It will make the metal weaker also, because some of the tool steel that they make those drill bits in are tempered. They're heat tempered so that they retain their strength. And if you heat them up too much and they get too hot, it can take that temper out of it, and it will actually weaken the metal and either cause them to break or bend. So just keep that in mind. Susan says material safety data sheet. Marianne, safety data sheet. Lorraine says, thanks, Andrew. Good to know. Cindy says, I think that's MSDS. Tara says, oh, Donna, what a wonderful saying. How fun to go through, or how fun to go through all those treasures. Dennis is Norma. I was so excited when my cousin called me. I was going back that Sunday after the sale to see what is left. Oh, good. Don says, I have a new friend who's a commercial beekeeper. It's fascinating. I think it's really cool. There's a lot of folklore that goes along with keeping bees. And at one point I thought about keeping bees, but we're just so busy that I don't think I want any more things that require me to care give. So probably not going to get those. Marianne says using native plants helps with sustainability. That's true, but I also think that a lot of people's favorite flowers and things they're way not native, like the peonies and the Asiatic lilies and things. You know, there a lot of those are from Asia, so you know, I think it's all you have to use your best judgment. And you know, be mindful of that. Donna says we have local beekeepers, so I love local honey and it helps with my sinus issues. Me too. All right, so I'm stringing this up. Can I get a time check, because I can't actually check the time here. One thing that I will need to do is I will need to get a head pin, because I need to string this beauty up, this octopus. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to finish half of this necklace, because I do have to go to another meeting after this and put on pants that can be seen in public. Hold on one moment. Alexa, what time is it?
The time is 6:28 p.m.
All right, so I got one of these. These are gold-plated head pin, and I'm going to place that right up through here like so. And that's going to be my focal for this pendant. And I thought about adding some to the bottom, but I don't think I'm going to do that this time. So I'm going to get my round nose pliers, or rosary pliers, and bend those over, creating a loop. And then I'm going to get my chain nose pliers here and wrap those. Now sometimes I'll move my pendant, so that it gets out of the way of my wrapping, because I don't want to get where I can't access my wire. Now, if you just saw what I just did right there, is I curled that in a little bit, so that way when I go to tuck this in, it's going to nicely fold in on itself and fit nice and even. And then I'm going to just squeeze that shut, make sure that it's nice and even, and there you go. Good to go. Easy peasy. That's what I like when it works out. All right, so I'm going to, I think we have time, but I don't know if people are interested in watching me string beads, because it is kind of a tedious, I shouldn't say it's tedious, it just takes a while. And, you know, I don't know about you, but this is maybe not the most 100% interesting thing where you just hang out and just talk. I guess that's fine too. And if I just do it, then it'll be done and stop complaining about how things are not razzle dazzle all the time. So I'm going to just do it. All right. So what else are you all doing out there? Oh, I see the time check. Marion said, just watch out for invasive species. Many garden plants are just fine to use as well. You know, you have to be careful with that. Like, I think somebody was saying that they planted mint by their door. to keep bugs away, and that's definitely something that is useful. However, mint is one of the ones that is super invasive and can spread like wild. So you do have to keep that in mind, because it can spread really fast and take over your whole area. So just keep that in mind. If you do, like sometimes people will plant with bamboo. Bamboo also spreads very quickly. And some homeowners associations won't even let you plant it. But if you are like really into planting it and having it in your garden, you can do a container garden and just sink it into the ground. And so it looks like it's growing in the ground, but it's actually in a container. However, you have to be really mindful of keeping on top of it, because otherwise, once it jumps out of the container, it will just spread like wildfire. Cynthia says, I've been practicing Latin on Duolingo, and it's a lot of fun learning. I'm going to do Spanish next. That's cool. Duolingo is actually based at Pittsburgh. You can go and be like, hello, I take your classes. And they'll be like, yeah, so do a lot of people. No, I'm sure they'll be very friendly. But I get job postings every once in a while. Because I always like to keep an eye on things. Mostly because there's, when people are looking for jobs or whatever, I think it's always good to be helpful. So, anyways, there always seems to be hiring a lot of times for like graphic designers and stuff. So I don't know if people are looking for work or whatever, but maybe go to Pittsburgh. And Dawn says, I'm doing Spanish Duolingo. That's cool. Now, is Greg doing Hebrew on Duolingo, or is that another thing? I'm not sure. I can't remember which one he said he was using. If you didn't see our post earlier, William posted about how we just restocked and added some new designs for Green Girl Studios. Cynthia, who's watching, is my sister, and she and her husband, Greg Ogden, own and operate Green Girl Studios out of their studio in Asheville, North Carolina. So you can check out our website, that's allegorygallery.com, and see what we have available. Or you can head on over to their website, that's greengirlstudios.com. Well, they also have an Etsy shop where they also list some of the things. Now, you may, when you're looking for different things, some of them will be in the Etsy shop and some of them will be in their online store. So you kind of have to know that going in. Sometimes you're like, I want all in one place, but sometimes it's good to have that diversified market. So yeah, so it's not always all in one place, but definitely check them out if you haven't already. I'm sure all of you who are watching are probably longtime fans. I am a longtime fan. And that's my family. So support my family. And you can either do that by getting stuff from us or getting stuff directly from them or one of their retail partners. So keep that in mind. Lorraine says, it's impossible to get rid of bamboo. That is correct. Cynthia says, Greg is learning Hebrew. Janet says, I can never have enough GGS. Me neither. I love it. All right. And they have some fun nautical designs if you're looking for them. Lots of mermaids, lots of sea creatures. So definitely check them out if you haven't already. or if it's been a while, check them out also. I know they're trying to save up for Azalea's school and her books and things like that. I wish that the shop was a little bit busier right now because then I would just pay for it. Um, but it's been super slow. So, maybe I'll have a sale or something and put a little something, something together so that she doesn't have to worry as much. Um, I think that that's one of the hard things about education is that, uh, even if it is a local community college or whatever, it can still get expensive. And sometimes it's like that Alanis Morissette song where sometimes it's peanuts and sometimes it's whatever. So sometimes when you're going to school and you're young and you're not necessarily working, anything can seem expensive. So hopefully, um, yeah, she gets that taken care of. I'm excited to see them. They're gonna come up. She got won a full ride to the Teen Week at Touchstone. She's gonna be doing blacksmithing, which is pretty cool. Um, and Nate, he lives over in Johnstown. He's the one who's going to be teaching it. Him and his partner Erica live there, and that's pretty cool. They're super nice. Yeah, I love Touchstone, and hopefully, if you all ever get to come out this way, you'll get a chance to, if not take a class, at least tour the campus because it's a really beautiful place. And I think it's just a really beautiful sense of community. All right. Right now, I'm just spacing everything out, sliding everything down. This is going to be surprisingly a very long necklace. And the nice thing is that if I decide to make this a shorter necklace, I don't have to keep going. I can always just take these off and restring it. So, and I think I might do that because this is getting like super long and it's going to be like tickling your belly button otherwise. So, I think I might do that. So, how many is on there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's do one more for 12, and then I'll have 12 on each side. And that's one of the examples of what I was just talking about, where, not being 100% committed to a design and kind of working with it visually. Right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Just making sure. All right. And I'm going to cut this off. And where's my cutters? Here's my cutters. And then I'm going to add my crimp tube, and half of my clasp. So whenever I'm doing this, I string on my crimp tube, I string on half my clasp, and then I string this back through the crimp tube. Now, we used to do a lot of repairs in the store, and one of the number one things that we used to get a repair on was that it wasn't properly crimped. Um, or not from our jewelry, but people when they bring stuff in to get it fixed, it wasn't crimped properly. And also, or they'll use super cheap base metal crimps. And while it may seem like you're saving money in the short term, I think it's always best to get the best quality crimp tubes as possible. So, getting things that are copper, sterling silver, harder metals like that, That's a really good thing because they're going to be just sturdier and they're going to last longer. The ones that are made of base metals like tin or pewter, they're just super soft. And while they may hold in the very, very short term, they'll eventually break. And I've seen it happen a lot. So, in my experience, get the best crimp tubes you can afford, and make sure that they're a quality, reputable place that is not going to try to do a bait and switch and test it out, and use those because it will make your pieces of jewelry last a really long time. All right, so I've got this. I've got to do what I call the wiggle test. And basically, that means wrapping it around my fingers to make sure that there's enough give and play in the design. If it's strung up too tight, it will not lay properly and there won't be a good drape when you're wearing it. So just be mindful of that so that you don't string it up too tight. Because I've seen things where people have strung it super tight and they think they're doing a good thing, and then they go to put it on and it just breaks and falls all over the place. And then is disappointing when you spend all that time stringing things up and then they fall all over the universe, like that scene from The Witches of Eastwick. When they go in the church and the pearl necklace breaks. You don't want that to happen. So I'm just putting on my second crimp tube. And I'm going to make sure that my wires are not crossing inside of the crimp tube, because if they cross over on the crimp tube, there is a strong likelihood that they could cut each other inside of the tube. So I'm just going to pull that nice and snug. And I'm going to make sure that they're not crossing and that they're parallel to one another. And then I'm going to take my crimping pliers. Now, in a crimping plier, there are two notches. There's the one closest to your hand and the one closest to your tip. You're going to use the one closest to your hand to, quote unquote, make the taco. And it's the easiest way to describe it. But what we're doing is we're creating a kind of a trench or divot across the crimp tube. And then we're going to turn that crimp tube on the side, aka the taco, and we're going to close the taco up. So we're going to use the notch closest to the tip to close it up and make sure that it folds in on itself as a nice sturdy cup link, and it holds everything nice and firmly. All right, see? Nice and sturdy. All right, so here you go. And here's the finished piece, y'all. And there is a little bit of a play here, so I think I will. That's okay, because I have these organic materials. I want to make sure that there's enough room that they are comfortable. Now there is a one. Of course, there's always one that's a little bit wonkadoodle, but that's all right. All right, I'm gonna hold this up on my neck and see how it looks in the mirror. I'm gonna flip it around. Hello, everyone. All right, so let me make this go away. Let me lower this down a little bit. I like that. There is one on this side that's a little bit wonky, but that's all right. But I do like that length, and I like how they flare out like that. I think that's something that you could layer with a longer piece. You just have to play around, or you could just wear it like that. But I think that that's a nice statement piece. It's a little bit beachy, a little bit, you know, you got the octopus and you've got these shells. And I think it has a kind of a dramatic look. Super simple, easy stringing, nothing super complicated. And it kind of coordinates with the bracelet that we made the other day. So you have a little matching set that even though they're not exactly the same, they do go together. So that's always nice. I like to think about things in terms of collections or series when I'm working. All right. Marianne has done all of those things for my GGS purchases. Oh, good. Suzanne says, and the rabbits and snakes and cats love GGS. Lorraine says, do you sell those shells? I think I have a couple strands of these available, but I don't think they're on the website. So maybe we'll have another sell down with some of those because I do have a couple extra strands that I'm willing to share. Kim says, I have to stop hoarding my beautiful Green Girl Studios pieces. I think it's always good to use the pieces because it's nice to put them out in the world and, you know, enjoy them that way in a functional way. But I also have a box of them that I just use to look at and enjoy. I have a whole box of anchovy beads and I've been collecting for a long time. And I don't know if I'll ever make anything out of them, but I do. They bring me such happiness. So whenever I'm feeling kind of depressed or blue, I'll take them out and I'll polish them up and spend time reading the quotes and looking at the pictures. So it's a nice thing to do, and they're not strung up, you know. So there's lots of opportunities to still enjoy the beads that you have in your collection without actually using them. I kind of think of it as like a stamp collector. You wouldn't expect your stamp collector to use those to send letters. But you know, nobody says, "Oh, how come you're not using all your stamps?" Um, so I think it's okay to have a bead collection that's just for beads. Lorraine says, me too. Diane says, hey, I just saw William in town. I love this necklace. Thanks. Did you remind him to get me a piece of strawberry cheesecake? If I don't get strawberry cheesecake tonight, it's going to be bad times. Let me just tell you. Julie says, nice. Thanks. Barbara says, pretty. Thanks. Norma says, very nice. Thank you. Julie says, beautiful. Thank you. Julie says, yes, beautiful. Cindy says, the piece is wonderful. Thank you. Suzanne says, very nice. Terry says, I really like that. Thanks. Kim says, love it. Jan says, looks good on you. Thanks. I think it frames my face nice because my face is getting a little bit rounder. So I could have made it shorter, but I kind of don't wear chokers anymore because I don't like the feeling of getting choked out. There's one time when the first necklace that I made, I put it on and it was like a choker. And then I took a swallow of water and it got stuck on my Adam's apple. And I thought I was going to choke to death. Not a good feeling. So give yourself the opportunity to space things out so that you don't have the choking feeling. Unless you like that. If you like that, you know, that's a different conversation and probably not one that's appropriate for our live at 5. So anyways, Barbara says, I like it. Robin says, gorgeous. Don says, thank you, Andrew. Well, thank you, Don, for tuning in. Susan said, beautiful, creative work, Andrew. Thank you. Lan says, ooh, I would buy those shells and those pearls. I like the color of them. Oh, good. Well, they are maybe available. I know the pearls we have more of. Those are in the store. William listed a bunch on the online store. So, and you're relatively local. So if you need to pop over and dig through stuff, we can probably arrange that. Cynthia says, I have beads I have no intention of using. Me too. You know, there's ones that are special that I just have in little dishes, and they bring me so much happiness. Cynthia, she used to have these amazing shadow boxes where she had beads from all of her favorite people in them. And it was super cool. It was like her own little museum, but in her house. Diane says, he said they didn't have cheesecake, but he got you something. I'm not sure what because it was in a box. Well, I guess that's fine. You know, though, Christina from Christina's Confections, she has a mousse sometimes, which is really nice. And sometimes she has that like a white. Now, white chocolate can be hit or miss with me, but I think she had a white chocolate mousse, and it was like in these little cups, and it was dang good. So maybe that. Marianne says, I love the length. You know what? I do too. I like the way that it turned out. But you know what? Originally, I had planned it and it would have been this much longer on each side. So instead of hitting right here, it would have been like down here. And I don't know if that would be like, you know, it would have the same impact. It wouldn't have that same kind of, you know, like almost like a lace collar, you know, have that vibe. I'm digging deep with my Justice Ginsburg flavor. Cynthia or Barbara says, Cynthia, me too. I have a strand of opals from you. I can't share. Yeah, I have in my metalsmithing area, there's a case that I have, a glass case, and I have some of my beads, and most of them are just to look at, only to enjoy with your eyes, not to put into anything. So, Rhonda says, I didn't see pearls of that color in the store just now. They might have sold out. I can ask William if there are any more left. I know there's some in the store, the physical store. Or if you're in the physical store, they may be on the online store. You know, that's the thing about having everything in multiple places. Otherwise, I've got these left over. That's for me. Cynthia says, Barbara. Oh yeah, I just look at them and put them in frame boxes. Diane says, I will have to look next time I'm in town. I just bought some stuff tonight. Oh, thank you. Thank you for your support. William's been telling me that it's been super slow in the store. And I thought there was a glitch with our POS system because I opened a report one day and it had 0 sales. And I was like, something's up, William. And he's like, no, it's just been slow. So, and I think that part of that is because we're a tourist town, but we're kind of like a driving tourist town. We're a part of the Lincoln Highway. We're on the Lincoln Highway, the historic Lincoln Highway. So there is a long history of like motor courts and things like that, and people driving along the Lincoln Highway. And it's also one of those places that people like drive to. You don't like fly to Ligonier. You know, it's like you fly to Paris or you fly to New York City or you do, you know, but like Ligonier is like one that you drive to. And because I'm assuming that it's because of the fuel costs going up, but we have seen a dip in online sales, or not online sales, but physical brick and mortar sales. So I'm assuming that that's what it's doing. Thankfully, there's parking in front of the store now, so that's helped. For a while, there wasn't parking in front of our store for like a month, and then the sales like really tanked for a month. So luckily, there's parking again, and hopefully for a while because they're supposed to do more construction soon. And I'm like, dude, I can't even. All right. Janet says, no, that's a good idea, shadow boxes. You know, I shadow box jewelry too. So if I've made something that's like super incredible, I put it on shadow box. I also have mannequins, but also I have a store, so it makes sense that I have mannequins. And sometimes I just drape stuff on them, on the mannequins. And you all think I'm playing, right? But I'm not. I don't know if you'll be able to see it because the lights are not on back over there. But directly across from me, there's a mannequin that I just draped some pretty beads on. So it's nice to see how they look when they're strung up. Janet says, I feel that way about Calvin Orr beads. Don't think I can part with them. Yeah, I have some really amazing beads that he made. And I have the beads that he made with William. And those are in a little keepsake box. Barbara says, I like it short. Me too. I don't like it too short, because then it's like choky time. But I do like it to frame, especially with this because it's got a round neck. I think it looks good with being shorter. If I had a V-neck on, if it was a little bit longer, it would look a little bit like it would go with the silhouette of that. But the nice thing about that is like this is a little bit fancy. And if you say you just needed to like dress something up, you could wear like shirt and jeans or whatever and put on a fancy necklace, and that instantly makes you a little bit more fancy, right? So you could be out like hoeing the garden and then put on a fancy necklace and then go out and be sociable. If people do that, I don't actually know about being sociable anymore. Cynthia says, Janet, I put a thread or a decorative piece of leather or yarn and use pins to pin them on the backing. I've done that too. Sometimes I just put them on head pins and we'll hang them. Well, what we did with the show, The Art of the Bead, we used to do this annual show where we had bead makers send beads from all over the world. And we would take Softlex and go through and then put a stop bead and then put the crimp. And then that way there was a loop and you could just hang it on a nail and swap things out that way. So that's what we did. Cynthia says, sales are always dismal in the summer, especially when it's really nice out. I make mostly components. In fact, folks are, I make mostly components and folks just aren't making stuff in the heat. I think it's true of most crafty businesses. It comes in waves. So hopefully things pick up. Usually for us, the summers are actually one of our busiest times, be in the store, in the physical store, because people are out and about and they're driving around and their kids are off of school so they can come and visit. We also used to do a lot more stuff with programming. So for instance, we used to do this thing called Creative Camp, and Cynthia taught at this one at once. I was like, you're going to teach, right? And she was like, okay. And so we had a really fun class that she taught. And Heather Powers was teaching and some other artists. And we basically turned Ligonier into a campus. So there were classrooms all over the town and people would take classes. And then during their lunch, we had a vendor night one night. So folks, it was a good way for people to offset money expenses. So they would come and set up and people would go shopping and buy things. And that way, even if you're a student, you could still make money to attend, So that was a good way to offset costs. I think we'll try to do that. I think the plan was that for this summer, we would maybe try to do something for our wedding because we didn't actually have like a big celebration for our wedding. We just like went to Carol and Dave's after the ceremony, which was nice, but we wanted to see more of our friends and kind of make a deal of it. And now that people are kind of navigating the pandemic as best they can, and it's a little bit more, people are a little bit more able to travel around more. we might do that. So maybe in the early fall or late summer, which is like next week, we will have a little get together. Maybe not huge, but I kind of just envision us maybe like renting out a big lodge or renting a porta potty here and just crafting and eating good food and hanging out, and it'll be a good time. So if you are interested in that, let me know, and we'll make it happen. Otherwise, I'm just gonna invite Cynthia and Sheila, and we'll just stay in the house. Janet says, "Ooh, colored soft wax rings. I can wrap my head around using that as a display." Yeah, that's what we used. Was we had a white wall, so we used white soft wax, and it almost looked like the beads were just like floating. Cynthia said that was a good time. Let's make another retreat. Yeah, let's do it. Maybe we'll do it in Asheville this time, because we did up here. Maybe we'll do it over there. So we'll talk about it and get back to you all. I have a meeting, so I need to drive into town for that. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you had fun hanging out with me and listening to me talk for almost 2 hours while we strung this up and made this necklace. Generally speaking, if I was just out to sit down and make this, it would have been like done in 15 minutes. But of course, as you're talking through things kind of get spaced out, and hopefully you all enjoyed that. I know I'm not William, and William has his special fan base that they only watch when William's on, and when I pop on, then they're like delete. So hopefully you weren't too disappointed when you saw me pop up today and not William. But he's at the shop doing the night market. So yeah, I don't know how much longer it is, because it looks like it's going to thunderstorm. So who knows? But anyways, thank you so much for tuning in. It was fun hanging out with you. William will be back on tomorrow, unless we have some other kind of event. And he'll be back tomorrow. And at some point tonight or tomorrow morning, we're going to be sending out a Zoom link if you want to craft and hang out with us tomorrow night around 7. And I don't know where we're going to post that. Probably just to our Allegory Gallery Design Challenge group. Maybe our own Allegory Gallery page. But we're just going to hang out, make some stuff. And hopefully if you got your Kittapalooza stuff, then we'll make that. Even if you didn't, William, and he probably is like, just land the plane, dude, land the plane. But if you didn't get your stuff in time, just hang out with us, grab some other beads, one of our other inspiration kits. And, I'm not going to check your work. I'm not going to be like, so how many dollars did you spend to join this club? Just, you can come and hang out, grab a glass of whatever, wine if you're feeling festive. It's been kind of a long week, so I might enjoy something, but I always, who knows, maybe not. All right. Barbara says, good evening. It was fun. I'm glad you had fun. Marion says, love your demos. I'm glad you enjoyed that. I know it's just simple stringing, and some of the people who've been making jewelry for a long time will be like, they're just roll their eye, like it's basically comatose time. But, for the people who are new, they may not be like fortune business. They're not going to be all like, hey, let's do the most complicated, the fold form backwards cowgirl style or whatever. I don't know. Barbara says, I love watching you both. Thanks. Teresa says, love this. Love watching you. Barbara says, thanks. Miriam says, hard lemonade for me, maybe. That sounds pretty good. I had this really good seltzer, and it was a pear seltzer, and it was really good, and I haven't been able to find it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to contact this event, like this organization, this really fans that we did, and we went to their event, and they're going to be like, hopeful that our email is going to contain like a donation or something. And he's like, "What kind of cider do you have?" And had at the party 6 months ago, but it was really good. So I don't know, it may be worth it. You never know. It never hurts to ask, right? Suzanne says, "Simple stringing. Uh, it's got points." Yeah, I love stringing. It brings me happiness. And Barbara says it's a different ideas. And I think that that's true. Like even if we're doing basic skills and things that people, are really like armchair comfortable with and they're long time makers, sometimes the way that other people make stuff is different enough from the way that you make things that it can inspire you to do something different. And also, I feel like sometimes just seeing somebody do it kind of makes you want to do it too. So hopefully people will see this and they'll be like, "Hey, I want to string some beads too." They don't necessarily have to like learn something new, but if you do, that's cool too. But it's like I saw somebody a video not too long ago about kumihimo, and I enjoy kumihimo, but haven't done it for a long time. So I saw that video, and then I started rooting around looking for my kumihimo board so that I could play along too, because it got stuck in my brain. And then I was like, I need to make this like the most fancy kumihimo and get like banana fibers and mix it with pineapple fibers so it like represents my cultural heritage, which I didn't actually do yet, but maybe one day I'll do that. All right. I'm landing the plane. Thanks again, y'all. Hope you have a great night. Bye bye.